You are about to make a decision that most people are too afraid to even consider. Deleting social media, disconnecting from the entire world, not building out your personal brand, never seeing the amazing updates of the normies anymore. Now this is a very scary thing to do. It most certainly made me feel terrified when I first tried it. But what if being that strange, wacko, misfit guy is just not a bad thing at all? Now you are super wise and smart and old, and it's not you that is addicted to social media, it's the other people that are addicted. But you are noticing what is happening around you with those other people. When you pass by a school at 4 p.m. and all the children come out of the gates, you notice something very peculiar. It's not the children that are scrolling on the phone. It's all the parents in the car. They're all scrolling on their phone. It's everyone in the world. Everybody is addicted. And the resemblance between a social media addiction and drug addictions, like the worst kind of addiction, doesn't go unnoticed to you. You see the similarities. Both of them trigger dopamine releases that make you crave more. Both of them have withdrawal symptoms that you can control. Both of them result in compulsive disorders that you can control. Both of them cost money that you don't have. Both of them result in you not be able to find a girl that you so desperately deserve. And so you see it all in front of you. The similarities are striking. But more importantly, both of them make sure that you can't pay attention to the things that you actually are doing. And so let's imagine that you are driving your car, you're paying attention to the road, and you're sitting in your car driving, and suddenly there's this craving to check the post that you created a couple of hours earlier. And so you check the post for likes, and suddenly bam! Car truck hits you, and you float, the car starts spinning, and you float outside of your body. You completely go unconscious. And as you're floating outside, you look at your body and you instantly know that you died. And there's this light entity, and the light entity is there with you full of love. And instead of you seeing your life flashing in front of your eyes, what do you see? You see a bunch of reels flashing in front of your eyes, because your life is a bunch of reels that you didn't create, that somebody else created. Other people created those reels because you were too busy consuming other people's reels. You were not creating at all. And now you're sitting there next to your light entity, ashamed. Now, as much as we want to blame the phone in this very realistic car accident example, we both know it's not the phone. We both know it's not TV that is distracting us. It's not Netflix. It's not the fault of social media. It's not the fault of the computers. This has been going on for hundreds, if not thousands of years. As technology changes, humans just find ways to waste their time with new technology. If you sit in a restaurant today, you will find couples that are on their phone. They're just on they're not even talking to each other, they're on their phone. And you might be thinking by yourself, wow, that marriage must have been going to the gutter very, very quickly. But if you would go back 70 years, you would find those same couples in those same restaurants with the same phones. The phones are just slightly larger now, the size of a newspaper, and they will be scrolling on newspapers. Nothing changes. It's just technology that changes as we go along. And so it's the desire that humans have that is the underlying problem. We both know that if you would erase TikTok and WhatsApp and Instagram and YouTube from your phone, just everything, in the next couple of days, Gmail, you erase Gmail, in the next couple of days, you would literally be checking your phone every 10 minutes to check the battery life. And so this compulsive desire is the actual problem. So on one hand, we have this problem, the human desire to waste our time. And on the other hand, we have our dreams. We want to become superstar artists. We want to invent impressionism. We want to invent all sorts of new avant-garde ways to transform the world and get our creative juices flowing. But the desire to distract ourselves constantly is standing in our way of this goal. And so let's take a look at one of the greatest artists of all time and how he solved this desire to distract himself, how he solved it so that you can learn from his strategies and copy paste his strategies for your own life. In 1906, Mahler is busy working on his Symphony Number 8, and he wants to be one of the greatest composers of all time. He wants to be one of the best, and he knows he has it in him because his friends are telling him all these things. Your music is so amazing, your music is lovely, we love your compositions. But nobody knows him. He's not famous. He's not reaching the masses. And so he starts to doubt himself. Do I have what it takes to become one of the greatest composers of all times? Or are my friends just friendly and saying these things? On top of that, in 1907, he is diagnosed with a heart condition. And so now suddenly, he is fearing for his life. Afraid of getting a heart attack, he has to come up with a plan. Now there's one problem. The city. He's in the city and he's constantly distracted by the city. He constantly wants to go out. Sometimes his friends come over and invite him to particular things. Sometimes he just wants to go out and to a bar and drink something. And so he cannot focus on his stuff. Now, here's what he decides to do. He decides to go in a cabin in the woods of the Austrian Alps and lock himself up away from the city, away from anyone, not talking to anyone, not communicating, it's just him and his work in the Austrian Alps for several months on end. And so what happens? He sits there, he wakes up, he drinks his cup of tea, he starts composing his stuff, and he's in a complete flow, and in that complete flow, Symphony Number 8 unfolds itself and becomes an amazing composition. Little did Mahler know, in that cabin in the woods, that several years later, almost 1,000 musicians would gather in Munich, practice for months, so that they could play in complete synchronicity, a symphony of 1,000 in front of a German crowd. A symphony that would write history, a symphony that we are still talking about today, a symphony that you kind of have in you yourself. You know that you are destined for something. You could be that Mahler guy that writes that stuff. Now I have a question for you. Would Mahler have created a symphony of 1,000 in that cabin in the woods if he would have a phone with him with social media access? Probably not. Now, no access to the city is required. Not a little bit of access. It's not like something in between where you get a little bit of access and then sometimes something more lonely so that you can work on your stuff. No. Complete disconnection. Because I know what you're doing. You are sitting in your studio and sometimes you put a podcast on and sometimes you listen to my videos and sometimes you listen to something else in the background. You are working. You are getting things done. You are just putting it in the background, and that type of stuff is bullshit. You're not just putting it in the background. It is limiting you. It is not helping you create paintings. It's not helping you create business. It's not helping you creating anything. And sometimes as you are painting, and you don't hear something on the podcast, you quickly go to your phone and then you do rewind so that you can quickly listen to it and the thing that you just missed. And then before you know it, 30 minutes later, you're scrolling on Instagram. And so this doesn't work. You have to go cold turkey, complete disconnection, just like Mahler did. Now, am I saying that social media is bad and you should never go on social media again and you should erase it for the rest of time, the rest of your life? No. I'm sure that Mahler went back to the city. I'm sure that he enjoyed the city for the rest of his life. He just went to the cabin in the woods every now and then. And so there's nothing wrong with going to the city, going on social media and connecting with people. As a matter of fact, if you are a creative, if you are an artist, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a business person, you will have to go on social media. You will have to build your personal brand. You will have to go and do long sessions of marketing modes, long sessions where you'll have to go hard, pushing out the message, building your brand, going all in, being addicted to that phone. But then you also have to have moments where you turn on creator modes, where you turn on the cabin in the woods style of work ethic. As a matter of fact, the whole social media thing, I use this all of the time. Obviously, I'm making this video right now. But not only that, I use this in my free time. There are moments in time where I go on walks and I listen to audiobooks on my phone several times a day for weeks on end. That's social media. Audiobooks is a version of social media. This is also one of those intellectual things, you know? Intellectuals like to think that they listen to audiobooks and that's a great idea and that's different than social media. That's not true, it's not different. There are podcasts out there that are of the same level as your high quality intellectual book. There's no real difference, you know? And so how can we put all of this in practice? How can we have our cabin in the woods moments as well as our social media moments? There are 3 phases of addiction that you have to be aware of. The moment you become aware of this, you can analyze in which phase you are and analyze how to go to the other phases. Phase 1 is the consumer brain. This is the worst part. This is the worst place to be in. This is where all the slaves of society live. This is, sadly enough, where the majority of people exist in phase 1, the consumer brain, where they just consume. They watch Netflix all day long. They watch movies all day long. They consume McDonald's food all day long. They just let go and become average and weak slaves that can be manipulated. And this is the type of entity that your light entity looks down on. They're like, oh, these loser slaves, you know. So that is phase 1. You are constantly consuming. You want to get out of phase 1. Phase 1 is not a place to be in. Phase 2 is creator phase, where you will put on your creator brain, where you understand the Dries law, which is named after myself because of narcissism. The Dries law states that consumption will always fill up the time left behind by creation. And so in order to consume less, we have to create more. If you want to consume less McDonald's foods, you have to create healthy food yourself. If you want to consume less shorts on YouTube, you have to create shorts yourself. If you want to consume less porn, you have to create porn. You get the idea. I'm not going to go into it, but you get the idea. If you want to consume less, you have to create more. Now, phase 2 is a very interesting idea, a very interesting phase, because in phase 2 you are creating a lot, you're enjoying life, but you're also consuming. And so this is not where Mahler type of super masterpieces are created. They are not created in the realm of phase 2. They are not created when people are still scrolling on the newspapers. And so for that we have to go towards phase 3. Now I myself am currently in phase 2, and it's been a long time since I was in phase 3, and I'm kind of craving towards a phase 3 couple of months for myself. I might be in phase 3 right now, because this might be recorded months before you get to see it, and I might be in phase 3 right now. And then comes phase 3. This is where the magic happens. This is where you will copy-paste Mahler and do exactly as he did. You will lock yourself up for at least a 1 month period, but preferably way longer than that, a couple of months, and you will work on your masterpiece. This is exactly what I did. The first year after university, that summer, I went into an apartment of my mom that didn't have anything yet, no internet, no electricity, no heating, and I locked myself up for a couple of months, didn't talk to anyone, didn't saw anyone, and in that apartment, I figured out how to paint with lightning from the sky, 50,000 volts of static electricity, throwing lightning on paintings like a fucking god Zeus. And how can you develop that? How can you figure out these painting mediums? How can you figure out something new? By doing what Mahler does. You lock yourself up, and in those moments where you have no distraction whatsoever, in those moments, best-selling books are being written. In those moments, new painting methods are being invented. New movements are being created. In those moments, the magic happens. I believe that you want 3 or 5 to 20 of those phase 3 moments in your life. That is what I believe is a good life. And throughout your life, you will bounce back from phase 2 to phase 3 and phase 2 to phase 3. And if you bounce back from phase 2 to phase 3 properly, you might be surprised that a decade from now, 1,000 people will gather in Munich to watch your show, to watch your symphony, to watch whatever you have created. And in order to help you get rid of your distractions and get them under control, I've developed a free PDF quick start execution hack list with over 50 tricks used by the best artists in the world. Link in the description. And if you're interested in a different strategy used by Victor Hugo to erase your distractions, I've told his story in a video. You're an artist, outwork everyone by being bored. Link in the description and in the end screen. That said, get the hell out of here.